What is up, my geek nerd squad and my fiction enthusiasts? Welcome to your main central area and hotspot to get the latest opinions from the two coolest guys around about fiction and nerd culture alike. How you doing, Raymond? Say hi to the audience.
I hate this.
No. This is a great debut episode. Think about it. Like, we have so many possibilities to run with.
Did you say money? Sorry, I thought you said money.
How's your day been? We should always start with like a little side tangent. How are you doing today, Raymond? I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
No problem.
Okay. So, anything big happened in your life recently? Sad to hear it. My life's been pretty good. Nothing really interesting going on, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play Dead Space.
Interesting. Okay. Do you know what today's topic is, Raymond?
No.
Well, let me tell you. Today's topic, audience, it's quite simple, really. It is the subjectiveness of horror. Do you like horror movies, Raymond? Do you? Do you like horror media in general? Eh? Okay. I understand. You know, that's the whole point. They're subjective. But what I wanted to talk, like, mainly touch about with this is there was an article posted recently by, Dr. Who'd you call it? Can't remember his name.
Hold on, are you talking about an article that was made roughly 16 years ago? And published around the same time?
I do believe so. I just discovered upon it recently.
When you say recently, do you also mean 3 years ago again?
Yes. But, you know, that article, it talked about all the fears we have in common as humans and whatever. Death of, fear of mutilation and fear of genocide and whatever.
What was that? Fear of what?
Listen, I don't remember. It's been 3 years, but I found it really interesting. And I found it to be, like, completely nonsensical.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't agree with any of it. Besides the fear of mortality, wherever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Fear of death. And I don't know. Because I'm personally not afraid of anything except, like, death or...
What about going deaf?
That's a different story for another time. But, the whole point is, I don't think horror movies connect it in any other way. Like slashers, there's no, like, torture or much of gore, really, I don't think. Of course, that slashers involved into advanced horror and, like, the so-called, like, torture enjoyment era of horror with movies like Saw and Hostel. But I don't know. I just think the little hierarchy pyramid he made does not connect at all to horror media. Barely.
Sure.
I think. Well, what do you think?
I don't know. I think stuff like 80s horror and a little bit before then had a bit more torture than you say when you think of movies like slasher movies like, I don't know, original Friday the 13th. Even though they kind of died quickly, it was still mental torture.
Traumatic for the survivors.
Traumatic and whatnot.
Yeah. I sort of get that, but
it's not like...
That wasn't the main point of the movie.
Well, yeah, it was the lady wanted retribution for her dead son. I mean...
That came back to life.
Yeah, he wasn't dead for much longer after that. It was really sad.
Was it now?
Maybe.
Okay. But, you know, I just found it interesting. If you are,
But weren't you just complaining about how it...
listen. Finding it interesting and finding it bad are two separate things. Like, I think it's a very interesting article, and I'm sure it relates to some things, but I don't think personally it relates to me or horror media. I don't think it can.
Do you think at least it is kind of right about, like, the fears, since that's kind of what it's all about?
I'm sure for most people that you can agree, like, fear of ego death, I'm sure that's someone's worst nightmare. It's just not mine.
Mm-hmm. For example, Carrie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
It was pretty much ego death due to the social and physical, all, at that point, let's just include all the trauma, considering what she went through, it seems, as
yeah.
both a child and as a teenager.
What I find interesting is that it's I don't know. I'm a big fan of, like, PG-13 horror movies, simply because they're stuck with the limitations of not going all out. Like Goosebumps, that's sort of a horror movie, I guess.
It's alright.
The new FNAF movie, that's PG-13. I find it interesting how they have to connect the ideas set by a hierarchy pyramid and by, like, horror standards with limitations of also appealing to children.
If you've seen the FNAF movie, the PG-13 rating is very, very, very impressive for some of the things that they included in that.
Yeah.
Not gonna get into spoilers, but there's certain scenes, if you've seen it, that are very interesting once you notice them.
Yeah. Do you know what, like, the basics of the horror are? Like, there's a whole cheat sheet about what to follow through horror media and whatever.
Would you like to elaborate?
No.
Oh, that sucks.
Essentially, it's just guidelines that have been gathered by every horror movie ever, and it's true. Every point connects and whatever. But I think with that, it's hard to break the cycle of creating new new tropes for the horror genre.
Has this ever happened to you? Hi, Doug here with the new Sorbies, the most absorbent material I've ever used. To show you the power of Sorbies, I poured this gallon of milk on my counter. That's cash in the trash. But with the power of Sorbies... And now we'll double your milk absolutely free!
It's very easy to fall into the same trench.
It's very hard to get out of tropes when you've dug yourself a hole as deep as the Mariana Trench, considering that horror movies have been a thing since horror or movies started coming out. People created stuff like The Thing and The Blob and Dracula.
Yeah.
Or Nosferatu, whatever you want to call it. It's something that's really, 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 really hard to escape. But I think the only way that people have ever tried escaping that is including comedy into it. Because comedy adds just that little bit of depth that makes it a little bit different from another horror movie. Because they're not taking their topic as serious as you'd think they would, and it just adds a fun little bit of creativity from the director's standpoint, whether that's good or bad.
Yeah.
Most of the time bad. It's debatable.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about the first ever horror movie, I believe, that have, like, comedic elements that wasn't, like, old, and was, like, a big boom, was Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Of course, that bombed in the box office, but it gave way to Scream, which Wes Craven also made, and revolutionized the horror genre, because everything after Scream was just trying to replicate it. And that eventually, like, murder mystery, comedic, sort of dark sense of humor tone eventually became its own trope that got overused and saturated, which led people wanting to have horror movies serious again, which led to Saw and Hostel.
I feel like that also led to another thing. Scooby-Doo. comedic.
Well, Scooby-Doo was in the 60s.
Yeah.
Scream was in the 90s.
That sucks.
Uh,
Okay, hold on. Then was that also a stolen trope then? Are these all just back-to-back tropes they actually just can't escape? When was the first comedic horror movie ever? Not really comedic horror, just more comedic in general, horror topic kind of thing.
That is very good. The earliest example that comes to mind is House, 1977, the Japanese film. It's very lighthearted when it comes to horror, but it's a very good movie.
It wasn't. That movie is based off of the directors or writers, I can't remember which ones, child, which there was a daughter at the time, really young daughter, real nightmares, so it wasn't really meant to be taken lighthearted. It was just supposed to be like,
but it's still defined as a comedic horror movie.
I mean, yeah, it's a weird one. It's
weird, but yeah.
It was very interesting for the time, I will say. There's certain movies that have done tropes really well, certain ones that have done really bad.
The good, I mean. Thanksgiving did good tropes.
I mean...
you know, the walking puppet turkey and him dropping one-liners every 2 seconds.
It's like just one-liners.
I like the turkey. What do you think of Rubber? That's a good movie, ain't it?
It's about a tire.
Yeah, it is about a tire.
It is about a tire that has psychic powers.
Oh, another thing I want to get on is meta in horror media. Because I feel like nowadays, because of Scream and the evolution of comedic horror, everything has gotten a lot more meta now.
It's not even just horror. Everything.
Well, yeah.
Everything is becoming meta.
It's starting to not get good. It wasn't really good to begin with.
I'm looking at you, meta. Calm down. Please.
Are there any questions you want to bring up to keep this topic rolling, or are you ready for commercial break?
Why did the turkey cross the road?
Why?
To save the chickens from KFC.
Now that's what I call foul play. We'll be right back after these short words from our sponsors.
Hello, podcast listeners. This is an ad sponsoring Long John Silver's. Come try our brand new fish dinner meal for $4.99 today at Long John Silver's. At Long John Silver's, you can get fish and other fish-related foods. Come and try Long John Silver's today and look up on our website on longjohnsilvers.com.
Have you ever wanted to experience one of Gotham's worst criminals in his upbringing? Well, here comes the Enigma, a new backstory about the Riddler and his troubling past. Witness and hear with the brand new video podcast. Jump into the Hobbit hole with this brand new audiobook recording of George R. Martin's Lord of the Rings 7. Now, it's gonna blow your socks off, I promise. You know why? 'Cause there's a hobbit in a hole, and he has hair on his feet, and he's gonna take the rings and, bring them back to life. 'Cause you know how Frodo destroyed them? They're coming back, baby. And they're coming back, and it was bad, let me tell you. It's gonna be way better than that horrible, Lord of the Ring game that came out, whatever it's called. The stupid guy who took the ring and turned into the monster, and, what was that game called? What's the character's name? Whisper in my ear. Shadow of Mordor. That was whatever that crappy game. This audiobook about the Hobbit hole in the remaking of the Rings and whatever. Read it now, Spotify. Way better than whatever you're listening to right now. I promise. Why are you?
That was a terrible ad. Why would you ever choose that? What are you trying to do here? We are trying to make money here.
Hey.
We are not trying to be a good podcast. This is all about money. Everything's
about money with you.
And you chose a stupid Spotify ad to pick with this. We
They
don't want
promise
people,
the most.
They don't. They are trying to steal our listeners so they can listen to their
No one's gonna listen to Distractable. Distractable is a horrible podcast.
Nobody is going to listen to stupid podcasts off of Spotify or even a stupid audiobook like I can't even think of one. The Lord of the Rings. Nobody's gonna listen to that.
Listen, they promised me a set deal of maybe I think it was like $5,000 up front, and then $200 for every person who clicked on the ad. We have to have some people.
You could have done a Popeyes ad.
Popeyes didn't offer. Popeyes didn't offer.
I don't care if they didn't offer. You could have done a better ad than that. We could have been sponsored by Walmart.
The camera's still on. What are you doing here?
Ah!